No,
Yeah. Hey, Lee, good morning.
fun to hop in this on the other side.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always good to have somebody to talk to when I'm doing these classes.
Well, I'm coming from lack, so I'm all in.
All right. All right. This is also being recorded for those of you just joining us. As soon as I get the recording back from the cloud, it'll be sent out to Miko, who will be posting it on all of uh, the office's pages. Um, And I believe this morning, to cancel, you can go away. My watch keeps talking to me. Um, I believe that Miko just uploaded the listing agreement class that I went over on Friday. So everyone should have access to that as well on the office pages. All right, so today I'm going to quickly go over the three different types of agreements that you can use when you're working with a buyer. As you're all aware, last year things changed, and as of August, whenever a realtor is working with a buyer, you must have a signed agreement with them. And they go from absolutely simple, kind of a non-agreement agreement. This is the pre-property or property pre-touring agreement that you're looking at on your screen now, is the most basic of the agreements. This fulfills the requirements that we have without creating a relationship between you and the potential buyer. Um, Kind of look at it. This is what you're using with somebody when you're going out on a first date with them. You say, let me tell you a little bit about myself. And as you can see here, it says, I am a real estate licensee with, and it's the name of your office, um, Keller Williams Elite Properties, Keller Williams Realty Professionals, Keller Williams Realty Consultants. It's not your name. You see, it says brokerage and broker. It's the name of the office you work with. You fill in the name of your client, and they're going to use our services to view properties that you agree upon for X number of days. This agreement, since it is really not binding on anybody, you can put in as short as 1 day on this. You might put in 7 days, you might put in 30 days. The main purpose of this first line is to let the buyers know that brokerage agreements are not set by law, they're fully negotiable. That's what the lawsuits were all about last year. It tells them they don't owe us any commission at this time. If you work with the broker to purchase a property that we show you, the broker's compensation for the services will be, and the second box here is what you're going to check and put in what your commission is, plus if you have any type of transaction fee that you're going to use. Okay. And if you wish to work with broker to purchase a property, we're going to ask you to sign a separate agreement, which is the exclusive buyer broker agreement. That's the last one that we're going to cover today, which spells out more of the details, what the responsibilities are. It also tells them that a seller or the listing broker may pay some or all of the compensation above. So while the agreement is that we are charging the buyer a commission, it's letting them know that we might be collecting some or all of that commission from the seller or the seller's broker. Okay? And they're basically signing this, you're signing this. This meets the letter of the law, what the requirements are that we disclose to a buyer, that we're working with a buyer, we're getting paid from them. Right? Now, the second agreement, and let's make this one a little bit larger for you. Okay, this is the showing agreement. This one is identifying specific properties that you're going to show them. It still doesn't um, it doesn't create an exclusive relationship with those buyers for anything other than the properties that you're going to be listing here. So again, going back up here, it's the name of the consumer, and you're putting in a time frame, just like in a listing agreement, as to what time period you're going to be working with them. So the first document said you're going to be working with them for X number of days. This is creating more of a time frame like you have in the listing agreement. And in this box here, again, this is the broker. This is the name of your office. It's not your name. Okay. So if you're taking somebody out and you're going to be showing them 4 or 5 properties in the next day or two, this is where you're going to be listing each one of those properties. Okay. This is specific to what you're going to be showing them. And then it gets into what our obligations are. We're going to negotiate the transaction for them. We're using our professional knowledge and skills, diligent efforts to show the consumer what they're looking for, assisting them in negotiating and closing any resulting transactions, and we're going to cooperate with other brokers. So what's the consumer going to do? The consumer agrees that the broker may work with other prospective consumers who want to acquire the same property. So I was asked this question just last week, that what happens if you're working with more than one buyer who might want to see the same property? It's built right into both of these agreements that you could possibly use. It's simply explaining to somebody that, listen, there's kind of limited properties out there in the criteria you're looking at, and someone else from my brokerage or even myself might have another buyer who's looking for the same thing. If that's the case, I'm going to tell you that there are competing consumers looking at this property, but I am not able to share with you any terms or conditions of the offer. Okay. Number C, this is exactly what we go over in the listing agreement. This is about Fair Housing Act. And I want you all to continue to be aware, this is serious stuff. In our agreements, it's really just 3 lines, but this is serious. This is a federal law. Don't cross it. Easiest way to explain this to people is I can share with you the information about the property. I cannot share with you who it applies to, right? The property has a great backyard, not great backyard for the kids and pets to play in. You go down that road, you've broken the Fair Housing Act. The property is within walking distance of a synagogue or a church. Well, now you've broken Fair Housing Act on 2 fronts. You can put close proximity to houses of worship. Right? You are not being specific. You're talking about the property. Right? And I love what they've put in here, because this is something that comes up quite often, talks about service providers. And it's going, we do not warn or guarantee the products or services provided by any third party who we could refer to the consumer. Now, that very well includes, mortgage and title, but if you're involved in the transaction and you're recommending an inspection company to them, if you're referring a handyman who's going to fix something, or, a roofer, anybody that you're referring to them, that's all you're doing. You're referring to them. It's still up to them to do due diligence and decide if that's who they want to use. We're not warranting or guaranteeing any of the work from those people. Hey, and that line is actually showing up in more and more of the new documents that we're seeing coming from FAR these days. I'm real happy to see that one added in there. Now, consumers' obligations. Well, they're going to cooperate with us in accomplishing the objectives of this agreement. If they find a property that they want to negotiate, want us to show them, they're going to tell us about it. They're going to provide us and lenders, closing agents with accurate information in order to get this to closing. They're indemnifying and holding us harmless from losses, damages, costs, and expenses of any nature that broker incurs because of their negligence, misrepresentations, default, or agreement. I honestly couldn't tell you how that's ever going to be enforced. If they don't do what they're supposed to do in order to get it to closing, are we going to go back and sue them for any costs that we've had? I honestly don't think so, but those are the kind of things that if it comes up, we'll talk about it at the time. We'll talk to the necessary attorneys and really find out how practical that is. And lastly, they're going to make diligent, good faith effort to perform under the terms of the contract. So this one, same form, they're agreeing to pay us a commission. Consumer
Richard,
or any person acting for or on behalf of the consumer. So while you go back up here and you're putting in the parties, the name of the person you're working with, this line down here really prevents them from going and saying, well, you know what, my cousin Joe is going to end up buying this property, so I'm not going to owe you a commission. Or I have an attorney who's going to negotiate it, so I'm not going to owe you a commission because they're doing it. It's talking about any person acting for or on behalf of the consumer. So it's kind of preventing them a little bit from trying to go around us. Okay?
so
And
Richard,
then here it's talking again about what our commission is. And you've got a set fee or a percentage. What most of you will be using is the second box where it's a percentage plus your transaction fee. So if you're not charging a transaction fee, you can use this first set. If you are charging a transaction fee, it's the second set there. Simple as that, guys. If you're working with somebody who wants to rent a property, it's the second box under lease. And you're going to do the same thing. It's a percentage of X. So you would put, for example, half a percent, 0.5% of 1 month's rent is the fairest way to do it. Retainer. I'm not a big fan of taking retainers, yet I know a very small handful of agents who do charge retainers. It's like we're going out and we're working. You're going to pay me $1,000 up front. That's my time and effort that I'm going to put into doing this. By the way, if and this is a little odd here, provided for consumer is earned and payable upon execution of this agreement. This retainer is in addition to any compensation earned by the broker. I find that very interesting because most everybody I know is going to collect a retainer. That retainer is going to be credited back to them out of our commissions at closing. This document is saying exactly the opposite. It's an addition. So under additional terms, if that's what you're doing, I would write in exactly the opposite. Retainer fee shall be credited back to buyer out of buyer's broker's commission at time of closing. Okay. Dispute resolution. If any of you have listened to any of my classes in the past, you know I'm not a fan of arbitration. I believe that the first thing you do is go to mediation. If mediation doesn't work, you have the right to go and sue each other. This is one of those paragraphs that if an attorney reviews it for your client, the attorney's probably going to cross out the entire paragraph. My answer is let them. Just have everybody initial it, let them. The attorneys want the right to go and sue everybody immediately. They don't even want mediation. However, there's not a court I know out there that's going to hear a case without forcing it to go to mediation first. So my advice to you is just do not have anybody initial these paragraphs, and that does away with arbitration. If they do initial it, you're initialing it where it says broker or authorized associate, not a big deal. It just means if there's ever a problem, you're taking the additional step of doing arbitration. Okay. And, here they're telling you commissions are not set by law, fully negotiable, and broker may receive compensation from any source that exceeds the amount or rate, or I'm sorry, may not receive compensation from any source that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to with the consumer. Now, this comes up again in the next document, and this is important to understand because those of you who you feel your value proposition is doing something less than everybody else, and you fill in that your commission is 2% or 2.5%, and you're showing them properties and you're finding out that the seller's broker or the seller is offering a 3% commission, the maximum commission you are going to earn is what you filled in on the buyer broker form. So if you put 2% on this form because you want to make them feel that you're doing it less money than anybody else, that's the maximum amount of money that you're going to earn. You understand that? Makes sense to you? So
Yeah.
my question
Richard,
to
can you hear
you
me?
is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Lee.
Yeah. So I wanted to point out a couple things as you're getting right now to the meat of really the teeth of these contracts. Prior to, if you want to scroll back up to compensation. So prior to compensation, and for those that are going back into the recording, what Richard did in 1, 2, 3, and 4 is he gave you the presentation. He broke it down on how you explain it to the consumer. And when you do that in a impactful, professional, tactical way, when you get to number 5, it should be a natural progression because you explained how we work, what we're gonna do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is what the consumer obligations, service providers, fair housing, that we may work with other buyers. We're sharing all of these things, which when we get to the commission, now we're able to share that there is value to now compensation, where it's just verse, oh, just sign this because that's the law. And then now, Richard, as you got to the last page, where if we buy the buyer, meaning we go, oh, well, we'll do it at 2% because we couldn't explain the first part of the contract and we just got someone to sign something. The key here is, and this is what I heard, Richard, is that we say, we charge 3%. And if there's more compensation offered, we're going to give that back to you, or we're going to find a way to build it into the offer so that you can, because the most you will ever pay is 3% plus a 495. Like that's kind of the way I'm hearing this versus 2%. And now you just handcuffed yourself.
Absolutely, Lee.
Yeah.
This is all of these, well, with the exemption of the property pre-touring agreement, which to me you should never use. This one and then the exclusive buyer brokerage, which we're going to next. These are what's creating relationships between you and your client. Um, this agreement, when you go back up here, you are listing specific properties. You're going to take them out and show them. So you've already had a conversation with them, probably over the phone, and they've told you what they're looking at. And now you're going out, you're showing them, you've looked on the MLS, there's 4 properties you're going to show them. You're going to list those properties here. This is a transaction agreement. At this point, you've not really built a relationship with the consumer. And I really hate that word, but they figured that's as wide open as possible. You're just dealing with a consumer. This is somebody who walked into your store and wants to look at 2 or 3 of the shoes on the rack. They're a shopper, they're a consumer. You're agreeing to show them those 4 shoes. If they buy them, you get paid for it. My personal belief is, if you're doing your job properly, if you are showing them your value proposition, you are automatically going to the exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. Okay? This is the equivalent of the listing agreement that you're signing when you take a listing. Okay? This is, and the one that I'm going over today that I believe in, you are acting as a single agent. You are representing, again, they call it a consumer. To me, this agreement is with a client because you're representing them in a fiduciary relationship. You can transition to a transaction broker if need be, but this is what's building that relationship with somebody. This is what's showing them your true value proposition. And this document can actually be part of your buyer presentation. Just like you're going to a seller's home and meeting with them, and you're looking through the home and you're sitting down and doing your presentation, you're telling them what your value is. With a buyer, it's generally, come on into the office, let's sit, let's have a conversation, give me a chance to find out what it is you're looking for. We can do some preliminary searches on the MLS with us sitting here together. So I have an idea of really what you're looking for. And then we're going to go over what I'm going to do for you. And they'll be signing this agreement. So you see how you've gone from the first one, which is really no relationship whatsoever. It just says I'm fulfilling the laws of NAR and what I have to disclose to you, to I'm going to take you out and show you a couple of properties, but that's just transactional, to now we're really working together. I'm representing you to the best of my abilities. Is this progression making sense so far? All right. So this one, again, you've got the name of your client and the name of the brokerage.
Richard, yeah, and I want to reiterate, as you ask that question, does this make sense? As what you're doing right now, which I paused you on, this is how you explain it to them. Like, you don't just say sign it. You literally go, section 1, this is what this is. Section 2, this is what this is. And as you're explaining it to us, he's real playing it, or he's role playing it for us right now. I just wanted to pause so that people aren't looking at it like you're the broker explaining this to us. Like, you're literally showing us how to explain it like a kindergartner to the consumer we're asking to sign it.
Yeah. I was going to say you wouldn't, but unfortunately, there are too many realtors out there that, in order to meet the requirements of the law, will take these documents and docu-sign them, dot loop them to a customer and say, yeah, this is just one of the documents that I need by law to have signed, without really explaining any of it. Right now, we have my very first case where one of our agents is wanting to sue a buyer under this buyer brokerage agreement. Because after having explained it to them, after having gone through this, the buyer went and bought a property that they talked about using another realtor and not them. And that is no different than a seller having a listing agreement with you and then selling their property during the term of the listing agreement and expecting that they're not going to pay you a commission. Now, the challenge is in the year that all of this has been in effect, there have been almost no cases of people trying to enforce this. Now, I personally believe if, like Lee said, you take the time, you make this part of your presentation to them, you explain to them what it means, and you're a lot less likely to have them show up at the end of the day and go, oh, you know what, I was out this weekend and I stopped in an open house and, I put in an offer on it because my wife and I really like that house. You explain to them what happens when that type of thing, here's some of my business cards. If you happen to stop into an open house, hand it to the agent sitting in the house, let them know you're represented. If you want to spend a weekend and you want to go look at new construction, let me know. I'll be happy to go with you so that I can get you registered at new construction and make sure you're represented. Because if you just walk in and you sign in without me, you've literally signed away your rights to have any representation. Does that make sense to you, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer? Conversations, guys, explaining to them what it means. All right, so just like on the other one, the term of this has a start date and a finish date. Now, you need to know from your client, is this somebody that wants to buy something right now? They're going out, they're going to be buying something within the next week? Or is this somebody that, if we find the right house, we'll consider it. And, are they an A, B, or C buyer? Depending on how you determine that is how long I would make this agreement for. A lot of these that I'm seeing that I'm having to sign off on, just like a listing agreement, agents are putting 6-month terms on your buyer broker agreements. Okay. And just as I explained in the listing agreement, once they sign this agreement is in effect until the transaction closes. So if you put a 30 days in here, a 1-month agreement, and they go under contract 2 weeks in, but it's not closing for 4 weeks or 6 weeks after that, you still have a binding buyer broker agreement. Okay. For your property type, okay, you are not listing a specific property on this one. This one, you're listing type of property, single family home. You can put it as broad as residential properties. So whether they don't know if they're looking for a condo or a single family home. And location, you can put Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. We had talked about that at length in the past. There's some agents who put the state of Florida. And it's like, sorry, guys, you ain't qualified to work with a buyer everywhere in the state of Florida. Legally, you can. My opinion is you are not qualified. You don't know areas outside of South Florida. So keep this Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. And again, it talks about our obligations to your client. We're going to be professional with it. We're going to discuss all of their requirements. We're going to assist them in negotiating and closing the transaction, and we're working with other agents in order to do that. Again, they understand that we might be working with other consumers who are wanting to buy the same property. They understand that. We will let them know if that happens, but we cannot share any of the information with them. Okay. Fair housing, same thing. Service providers, same thing that we talked about. Consumer obligations. They're going to conduct all negotiations through us. They're going to refer to us any inquiries from other agents or property owners. As I said before, if they're out looking at properties, everything runs through us. Yeah, example of this one. Buyer's out at a party, and these days, everybody has a real estate license. If they happen to tell somebody, they're looking at buying a home, and another agent says, I've got some properties that you might be interested in, blah, 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 blah. You need to give me a call and tell me that you spoke to that person so that I can work with them in order to set up showings and take you to those homes. Okay, this is an exclusive agreement. Okay. Like before, they're going to provide us and any third-party vendors any information they need to get it to closing. They're agreeing to meet with us at reasonable times to see the properties. They're indemnifying us. They're not asking us to break the Fair Housing Act. They're going to consult with other professionals if they have legal, tax, environmental, basically anything other than real estate. We're real estate professionals. We're not attorneys, accountants, et cetera, et cetera. And they're making a good faith effort to fulfill their terms under a contract. Okay. Again, it talks about the retainer. Again, I'm not a believer in it. I would put a 0 in here, but if you do collect a retainer, this is where you put it. And again, it states this retainer is in addition to any compensation earned. Compensation, same as before. You can put in the commission here, or you put in the commission plus your transaction fee in the second boxes. Same thing with the lease. You can put in half a month, half a percent of 1 month's rent. We don't do options. You can ignore that. And additional fees. Where I see agents using this additional fees, if you use a transaction coordinator, instead of putting in the $495 up there, which becomes part of your commission, you can actually write in down here, buyer agrees to pay and you can, if you have a specific transaction coordinator, Trevor Coyne is a great one working out of our Fort Lauderdale office. You can actually put in, you're going to pay the transaction coordinator at closing. And that way it actually shows up as a separate line item on the closing statement. Okay. Protection period. This is defaults to 30 days if you leave it blank. It's simply saying if within 30 days after the termination of this, the buyer goes and buys a property that we showed them or we notified them about, we're still entitled to our commission. Okay. Conditional termination. Again, as you know from my listing classes, I put a 0 in here. I'm not charging somebody to not buy something from me. Now, what I want you to understand again, this is a conditional termination. This means that all of the terms of this agreement are still in effect. You're just no longer working with them to go out and show them properties. Dispute resolution, exactly the same paragraph that we went over before. And assignment persons bound. It means that broker may assign the agreement to another broker unless I decide to close up an office and take every contract that's out there and assign it to somebody else. That's never coming into effect. But they're agreeing that this is binding upon all of their heirs, representatives, successors, and assigns. Again, this is what prevents them from using, Uncle Joe to go out and buy the property and then transfer it to them. You can't do an end run around us. The important part of this is talking about single agency. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, what I want you to understand with this, 95% of all realtors out there work as transaction brokers. That means they're representing the transaction. They're not representing the individual. I have always believed that when I'm working with a client, I am doing my best to represent that client. I am working with them the same way an attorney, an accountant, doctors, they all work as fiduciaries, which means that they put their clients' interests ahead of theirs. Okay? Now, every agent owes you honesty and dealing fairly. However, the next four are what creates that fiduciary relationship. Loyalty means I'm loyal to you. You are my client. I'm doing what you tell me to do. Confidentiality means anything that you tell me during this process, even after it's done, all of that stays with me. If you tell me that you've got a job transfer and you've got to be down here within 30 days and you need to buy a house within that time frame because you've got to get your kid registered in school, I'm not sharing that with anybody. Because if we do, you lose a whole lot of negotiating power. Obedience. Unless you tell me something that breaks the law or my code of ethics, I am bound to follow your directions. And full disclosure is kind of the reverse of confidentiality. That means that anything that I find out about either the property or the seller, I'm going to share that with you. So if I find out that, the seller's getting divorced and they need to sell this home, we're going to talk about that because that gives us a little bit of leverage when we're negotiating. Okay? If I find out that, the seller has a terminal illness and they need to be under contract, we're going to talk about that. So these are the benefits that I'm going to bring to you. Now, understand, under transaction brokerage, none of that applies. And again, going back to accounting for all funds, skill, care, diligence, presenting all offers, disclosing facts, that applies to everybody. It's these, 2, 3, 4, and 5 that create the single agent relationship. Now they're going to sign here and here.
So pause, Richard, pause. So
Go.
anyone who could who could not finish his sentences there, like, you go back and you literally transcribe and you study and you role play that. Like, you guys have heard the word role play. Literally say that 500 times for the next 30 days in a row, so that when you ask somebody to sign this contract, you can say that with confidence, what Richard just said. And if you don't understand it, ask questions when he's done with this contract, because we still got 20 minutes. But like, Richard, that's all. Like, I mean, you're literally, if you cannot say what he just said, that's all you should be doing when you're writing it out, practicing. Because what I wrote down here, Richard, was loyalty, confidentiality, obedience, full disclosure. Isn't that what you would expect from the next agent you choose? Isn't that what you would expect from the person who's showing you property versus what everybody else would be doing, just looking for a commission? Let's sign the contracts so we can get you inside these houses so that we can get you blank by blank. I mean, that's just where my brain goes versus, I can feel some of the gloss of the folks on the call. And this is the power of you going over this, because to explain single agency, being a fiduciary versus a functionary is vital. So want to pause because then you just went, oh, they sign here. Well, yeah, but we got to have that first part down.
Yep. Now, I'm going to do a little segue away from this agreement because I was talking about this last week um, when I was teaching the listing agreements in Coral Springs. This conversation about agency, single agents, this should actually be at the beginning or very close to the beginning of your presentation to them. You need to be talking about that before you're going through this document. Same thing with the listing agreement. It's in the listing agreement, but that should be talked about beforehand. Now, what I had talked about at the class last week, we have something at Keller Williams that's totally different from every other company out there. And we don't talk about it enough. That's our Y4C2Ts. This is how we conduct ourselves. It's one of the reasons that I'm at Keller Williams. It's one of the reasons I know a whole lot of agents came to Keller Williams. You know, they believe in the God family then business, but it's the Y4C2Ts, how we conduct ourselves. And Lee, what I had brought up then is, do you know of anybody who actually uses that during a presentation, either with sellers or buyers? Let me
No, I mean,
explain to you how I work with people. This is how I work with everybody. It's how I conduct my life. What do you think about these? Have a conversation with your buyers and sellers about how we work, who we are. How powerful would that be? There's no one out there at any other company that has anything close to our Y4C2Ts. And when I talk about the fact that single agency, that 95% of the other realtors out there operate as transaction brokers, I know less than a handful of other brokers that believe as I do in single agency. At Coldwell Banker, you cannot be a single agent. Their agents are transaction brokers. At Kai's, you have to be a transaction broker. I believe Compass as well is a transaction broker. Your biggest brands, they want everybody representing the transaction, not the client. They believe that there's a legal liability to representing a client as a single agent. I believe it's just the opposite. When you're doing the right thing, when you're living the Y4C2Ts and you're following the laws and what you're doing, you are acting as a fiduciary, whether you call it that or not. So be upfront with people. Let them know what your strengths are, what the strengths of the company you work with are, and how you're going to work with them. Okay. What do you think of that as part of your presentation, Lee?
I wrote in the chat, I think it absolutely should be part of the pre-listing packet, both buyer and seller, where you are disclosing who you are, what the company, what flag you fly under. And so I subscribe, Richard, to like when you go to the post office, that there's the United States of America and then there's the state of Florida. That we have Keller Williams, which we're talking about the Y4C2Ts, and then what is your personal flag or your team's flag, your business's flag? And I think that there's an absolute place here that you're going to connect with people when you say, you know, I believe in a win-win. I believe in integrity. I believe in communication. I believe clients always come first. And you have a presentation on this, and then you simply then ask a question, which is based on the other agents that you've met with, how does this compare?
Yeah. And if you're the first one that they've met with, you now know that anybody else they talk to, this is going to be part of the conversation. And I don't see how anybody can counteract what you would have just gone through with that either seller or buyer. All right. All right. And then again, you're consenting to transition to transaction brokerage. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, understand that all of these agreements are with the brokerage, and my broker has 150 agents in my office under him, which means all of them are bound by this as well. If one of those agents or even myself was to have another buyer that was looking at this property, my broker has to transition to transaction brokerage. In all realities, what it means is that I'm going to continue to represent you to the best of my abilities. The other agent will be representing the other party to the best of their abilities. We're not sharing any information with each other, but my broker under law cannot represent two people as single agents at the same time. That's all that this is saying. Okay. They're agreeing here. Other terms, what I would write in here, this doesn't apply to Aventura. You guys are kind of standalone, but I would write in that buyer agrees to be pre-qualified with Supreme Lending. Or you can write in there, buyer agrees that Title Alliance shall handle the closing. In Aventura, it's going to be Ariana will handle the closing, or we don't have a lender relationship there. But if you have a relationship with somebody, this is a great place to talk to them about the relationships you have and why you want them to be pre-qualified, why you want them to work with a title company that you have a relationship with so that you are in control of the transaction. And again, if you're taking a retainer, this is where you can write in retainer will be deducted from buyer broker compensation at closing. Okay. And then everybody is signing this. And of all the documents we've talked about today, guys, this is the only one that you should be sending to me in DocuSign so that I can sign it. Every other document says broker/sales associate. Means that you can sign on my behalf. This is the only one where I have to sign it. Okay. So those are the three documents that we're covering today. Any questions about any of this? We have about 10 minutes. We can just have a discussion. If
there was a question in the chat, Richard, going back to the second document.
Okay.
To go over, where was it? 4B.
No, 3B. 3B.
What? Says, please explain one more time 4B.
There is no 4B.
I don't know. Whoever wrote that in Aventura.
Yeah, take
3B.
yourself off
Okay.
of mute. Just ask the question, guys.
I think 4B might be associated with the
It's
show.
3B. It's 3B.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Consumer agrees that broker may work with other prospective consumers who want to acquire the same property as the consumer. They agree that we may make competing consumers aware of the existence of other competing offers, but we will not share with them any information about that. So this happens so rarely, guys, that you're out there working with two different buyers who decide they want to make an offer on the same property. In the last couple of years, Audrey Benassi out of the Fort Lauderdale office came up with this one a month or two ago. She works with investors, and she presented the same property to multiple investors, had two of them who wanted to move forward, make an offer on it. She wanted to know if she had to specifically to disclose to them. And it's like, no, it's right in the agreements you signed with them that you're allowed to work with multiple buyers on the same property. All you have to do is tell them that there are other buyers looking at that property. You do not have to share with them
You don't
any of
understand.
the information about the terms or conditions.
Provided, let him explain.
Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Aventura, does that answer the question? Yes. Okay, perfect. I love what Scott wrote here, Richard. Because this is like professional shit right here. And we blow by it so naturally. Scott wrote the bottom left of each one of the contracts. What were the specific contract numbers? And if you want to hit that point for the people in the back of the room.
Yep. Every document put out by FAR has numbers down in the bottom left-hand corner. So the showing agreement, it's SA, showing agreement. 4 is the 4th revision of this, and it was done July of last year. This is right before all the laws changed.
The right one, but I wasn't sure.
Okay, we're
Okay?
gonna
The pre-property agreement
I think it's only one.
PPTA.
is the property pre-touring agreement. It's the only version of it, was done at the same time when the laws changed.
Okay.
The other one that you're using a
Yeah.
lot more often is the EBBA, Exclusive Buyer Broker Agreement. 7 is the version, and TN is the transition to transaction brokerage. Now, if for some reason you don't want to be a single agent, you just want to work as a transaction broker, you would use the EBBA 7TB. It's the identical document, but it does not have the single agency part built into it.
So which one is it?
So you have the right
This
one.
is-
So TN, that's the single agent. And then transaction broker, if you want the same thing, -7 TB.
Okay, and
Well,
this.
Well,
There's-
the
there's
7TN
three-
is transition.
There's actually 4 different versions of
Mhm.
most of these documents.
7TB.
You've got TN, which is the single agent with the transition. You've got SA, which is single agent, means that you're representing them. You
Oh.
cannot show them a property that's listed by the office
I don't like that. You don't want.
because they can't transition.
Then you can't
You
show.
have TB, which is you are just acting as a transaction broker. And then the last one, which you should never use, is no representation.
So this one, TN, what is it?
That means it's single with the transition that it's adding.
This one, the TN, is single agent with the transition built right into it. This is both the listing agreement and the buyer broker agreement that I suggest you
No, I
use.
want this one,
This one.
10.
What are you guys doing in Aventura? Why like you guys are having a conversation while he's having a conversation with you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're talking about this.
Oh, I didn't know.
All right. Any other specific questions, guys? All right. As I had mentioned before at the beginning, this is being recorded. As soon as I get the recording back from the cloud, I will send it to Miko, and he will load it into each of your office's websites.
Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Thank you, guys. I hope that you got something from today, and reach out with any questions you have. Thank you for your help with this, Lee. Appreciate that. Good seeing you
Ah,
today.
this is awesome. Well done. Let's do it again.
You got it.
It was a good one. All right, good job.